We're doing a sort of like a walk and talk video this time. I'm actually at the grocery store at Monchique, Intermarché. The intuition said make a video on why 2020 was a good thing in this location, because it sort of emphasizes you've got this stark contrast of the material world, and then behind here with nature. Really, I suppose I need to give you a bit of a backstory, because it is a personal testimony that I have to bring into this. So when did it all start? It started with that intuitive feeling before birth of what the hell are we going into here? I don't like this. I'm not sure if I'm going to like this experience of stepping out into the light, into the unknown at the time, and of course then it builds from there. So there's been a very long, slow learning curve of listening to the intuition that comes through, and along the way the subconscious has been making little notes, things that stick in the mind, particularly with the opticians and how it is expressed about having clear eyesight, crystal clear vision, perfect eyesight, which is expressed as having 20/20 vision. There's always been a feeling that the calendar isn't quite right, shall we say, without being able to put a finger on it at the time, because we have to sort of, when we're looking back, regard the things of what did we know at the time, where were we at that stage. So there was a lot of talk about 2012 and the end of the Mayan long count calendar, which transpires is a miscalculation, but in a way the world did end in 2012, because what's come out subsequent, and it's always with the power of hindsight to see these things, you had the Olympic Games opening and closing ceremonies in 2012, which has been brilliantly put together in a presentation on Archaix channel. So yeah, the world didn't end, but it was showing you that the world was going to change, which would feel like the end for many. Basically a 7-year period, because it takes us to 2019. That's when things really started to happen. But 2018, it occurred to me that the 2020 just had this feeling that something was going to happen. And as we entered 2020, and it's ironic that this is one of these things that's stuck in my mind, because I have no interest in sports, but that name Kobe Bryant, I know nothing about. I think, was it basketball, the helicopter crash in the January, the whirlybird, the helicopter landing upside down, basically saying that your world is about to be turned upside down. And then we had, oh, looks like we're having this Third World War in the Middle East with Iran and the assassination of some high-ranking army official. I can't even remember the details because they're irrelevant anyway. So it's something meddling, Middle East, meddling with the E's, because it's trying to sort of, when you look at it in the mirrored perspective, it's saying listen to your gut. And everything about 2020 was very much that mirrored reflection with a different polarity, but revealing a lot. The whole thing about lockdown, the isolation, I'd already done that in 2018, because I'd tried to cut myself as much from the outside world, because the heightened feeling of the disparity in energies with how I was seeing things, how others were seeing things. And then it sort of becomes validated what it says in Genesis about humanity, or man, being formed from clay, because it's certainly been very apparent that humanity, the collective, is very much moulded and shaped, just like clay, like putty in the hands, as it were. I mean, you consider 2020, all that perspex that suddenly appeared. No one was perplexed by the amount of perspex. And of course, it's another barrier where you're going to get another reflection. And you can't see so well, you can't communicate so clearly. Now you've got this transparent veil that's been put in place. Then we look at 2020. A lot of small businesses went out of business because they couldn't sustain the imposed not being allowed to trade, which had a message of focus on the big business. That, again, if you internalize it, was go within oneself. That's the big business. That's the place to be busy, inside oneself, with all of this. What is the external reflecting? What is it showing me? Certainly, I would say the events of 2001 was like a foreshadowing. Because with that event, without sort of even looking into it, something felt off with it, the whole thing. And I thought any day now, just after that event, that we'd get the usual claiming of responsibility from this or that terror group, but no, there was silence. There was no claim of responsibility. There was a reflection of not taking responsibility. Because 2020 was that jolt that was needed, and it became very apparent that the majority just couldn't see things, and it also then became apparent that they're the ones that are keeping this going. They're following these scripts. They are stopping things moving forward, but it's brought about a spiritual evolution, a huge wake-up call. It's not meant for everybody. It is only meant for a few. So what you're having is a spiritual evolution taking place. It is no respecter of boundaries in the physical sense, because the events of 2020 has touched probably every life in one way or another, with a loss of a relative or whatever. So what it's showing, there is no boundaries there, but it's a reminder to set boundaries within yourself. What is acceptable, what is not. So you now have this widening gulf. For there to be an evolution, there does require, like everything else in this reality, a contrast. Just as you have the contrast with the material corporate world, as opposed to the natural green screen of this reality. I am just so amazed that the intuition said, make the video here, and this is incredibly quiet, this location. It's usually a lot noisier than this. So it's a perfect validation of, listen to that intuition. That's your independent state. You're depending upon that voice that is inside you. So what else can we say about 2020? Well, lockdown just meant meditate, go within yourself, get comfortable within yourself, with yourself, just being. Because a lot of people will really struggle with that. That was a valuable lesson that whole year. And then you had the false personas, the masks. Another sort of reflected theme to reflect upon. What is it really saying to us? What is it really showing? In many cases, it showed people in their true colours, because we had this panic over a toilet roll shortage. And there were those that were exploiting the situation and buying up masses to the point where it was then implemented that only 2 toilet rolls per person or per purchase, reinforcing this lack state. But it's also an invitation to use your imagination, to see things in a different way. So I don't see 2020 as a bad thing at all. Because you imagine, for those that are still here, that are still going with all these scripts and all these stories, what would happen to their mental state if suddenly in the sky things have changed so much that it becomes like a massive magnifying glass that brings all the nighttime stars in a lot closer? And maybe with that closer examination, a sudden realization, a penny will drop, that they've been lied to their entire lives. They've built their lives around lies and deceptions. Nobody likes to feel a fool, and yet we're on the fool's journey. It's about letting go of all attachments and being able to see things in a new way. It's how a new world is opening up. It is also going to be a very stark lesson in you get what you are. But there's still time, there's still 13 years or so to do what you feel you need to do. Listen to that inner voice, the intuition. That's what all these events are really about. It's showing you something. But look at what is being displayed. Don't go into the details of it. Just say, well, I can see what's being shown here, and this is all very negative. Well, I'm in a reality that has contrasts. So there's a reflected contrast to be found in all of these things as well. Because how else could this be achieved when the system itself has, in a way, created its own nemesis? What it's created is too good at just being a follower and just going where it wants. There's no challenge to it. There's certainly no spiritual growth going to come out of it. But at the same time, there are those, it's a cliche saying, but do have the eyes to see and the ears to hear. So as I suggested on the last video, like with etymology, and a word I said in there, which on playback, it's like, I forgot to mention that one. Encouragement. N. Well, the letter N and the sound N. It's reflecting the sine wave, the path of the sun, rising, falling, rising again. Courage. See our age. When we step into our power, it becomes our age and we see it. Our core, it's in core age, our very core. So in this video, I hope I am giving you encouragement, because that is what is meant, to encourage you to find the courage inside yourself. Do not be a part of the crowd, not to be a follower, not to be deceived, to be able to see these things in a new way. And the more that you look at things, because initially, going back to the different phases, it's very much you're looking externally. You've been given plenty of alternative history, alternative media that looks to be the answer, but again, it is a trap, because it's full of a lot of misleading stuff. I can think of no better example than this whole Graham Hancock nonsense of Atlantis being 11,000 years ago, when it can be clearly be shown from multiple sources, contemporary within Plato's own time, that corrected the dating, that a year is only a day, not a 365-day year. and it's called a Shah. Everything then falls into place with that. That is also a reflection of everything falling into place inside ourselves. Our own internal clock, our own internal calendar. Everything external of you is a reflection. It is a copy in some way or another. Don't know how many times I've walked up and down. I'm going to wear this tarmac out. But yeah, it's tough love. Because the whole 2020 event has definitely split families up. That's reflected in the insanity of the political world, particularly when you see all these sort of meltdowns over Donald Trump being re-elected and all this sort of thing. But it's just a world of illusions. Even the whole thing with moon landings. Deep down inside, it's like, without leaving aside everything we look into, but a sort of like a rocky place, a bit like a desert or cat litter, no vegetation, nothing, and it's like, well, it seems an awful lot of expense to go there and to bring back what? Allegedly a piece of rock. But at all that expense, that's just absolutely crazy. It's like throwing money into space. It's just, but where is space? It's anything between two physical objects. There's space between my physical body and this concrete wall. That's space. It's just words are sort of weaponized or taken to have a singular meaning when clearly they don't have a singular meaning. And if you find yourself caught in courts, law courts, then you can find out just how powerful words are when the judge pronounces a sentence. But all these things are clues given to us. It's not as clear cut as good and evil. The play out of it will depend on your perception, on your polarity as to what you see. Whether you can have that honest dialogue inside and listen to the intuition to see that all that is being shown externally, most of it, you don't know if it's actually true or not. And that is very much a pattern with things. And the more you sort of see it when you come away from it, the more fake it looks. It's just so incredible. The superficiality of it all. But it's the contrast with what is real. The Israel light, not the Israel lies, but the Israel light that is inside, where there is no conflict in the middle, ease in the middle. The middle of us is eased when we listen to the intuition. It's the one guide that won't let you down. It's also called the Christ consciousness seed. It has many names. They're just labels to explain what is going on inside of us. And like with the external world and stories of the external world, what's actually going on is happening inside. It's reflected in this material world with this, when you see this perception of its fraud and deception. It's a contrast to what really is true, and that is found in your true self. So I don't see 2020 as a bad thing at all. I feel it was an act of mercy. That's how I've described it before. It also, I can sort of understand, turning back to one conspiracy theory topic about why are there all these asylums. Well, I feel that for a lot of people, it is going to drive them crazy. They're already in an asylum. They are already asylum seekers. That's also reflected externally. But when you start to see it and see the pattern that it's allegory and it's metaphor, none of it is actually real. And let's face it, You're not seeing it even in 3 dimensions. You're seeing it in 2 dimensions on a screen. And that was how the whole 2020 thing was conveyed. There was no official government documents being put through everybody's door, making sure everybody had these guidelines. It was being mediated by the media. And it was via us, talking to each other. Oh, the government said we can't do this, we can't do that. And acting it out as well. I laughed at it all because I thoroughly enjoyed it. The world went silent, it was peaceful. So I take my responsibility for playing a part in the unfolding of that, if not necessarily the way it was done, but the end result of it. I don't see it as a bad thing at all. I feel it is the best thing that could have happened, but also indicative of if something has to be that extreme and happen in that way. And this whole air of time is speeding up, running out of time. It's as if whatever you want to see this system as seems to be more and more increasingly throwing more and more, creating a deluge, not of water, but of stories. It just feels like an act of desperation if they know that their time is running out. Because we are enormously powerful in potential within inside ourselves. The system is terrified of that, because when sufficient numbers have that realization in the energetic aspect of it alone, the shift and balance of between the positive and the negative, the evening out of things. The evening and the morning was the first day. So it's an evening out of things that seem very odd. And of course it does come with a morning, because it comes with a loss. Because a lot of you that I speak to, there is a consistent message. You've not had it easy. You feel like you've been placed in families where you don't belong, because you see the world in a very different way. Something else has occurred to me. If you look at what is reflected in royalty throughout the centuries in ancient Egypt, there's always this thing of incest. What's that actually saying? Because if those that are on the same wavelength are my soul sisters and my soul brothers, there is a kind of attraction. So it's just like a positive incest, because you're in love with the frequency match, the same vibration of a soul sister or a soul brother. It's a coming together of those that can see the world with a different filter, see things in a more balanced way, that can see the contrast, that have the real, shall we call them, 3-dimensional glasses. Actually, it's 4 dimensions. Yeah, there's actually 4 dimensions, because time in this reality is 1. And same with the senses. We don't actually have 5 senses. Taste is not a true sense. It is an extension of touch, because you cannot taste anything without touching it. The very action of tasting requires touch with the tongue. So we only have 4 senses. There's one of your 4s. 4 senses, 4 dimensions, and you're the one. There's your 144. One way of interpreting it, anyway. There are many ways of interpreting it. I could say that 4-4 is just 8 cut in half. And we are certainly shown contrasts as he spins round to show it, just to sort of cement it in, as it were. Anyway, so hopefully I've argued the case for 2020, what it was really showing for those that had the 2020 vision. Another way of expressing having clear eyesight is +6 +6 +6, or 6 + 6 + 6 in the optician's language. Well, if you imagine you've got your twin caduceus, so your one snake is on your left shoulder, the other one is on the right shoulder, and they're now at eye level, or a level with your mind's eye. You're seeing things where the eyes meet, the eyes come together. That's what the 111 is referencing to. And how many of you see 111 or 1111? These are all little references, incredible things in this reality that goes a long way to further show that this place is not what we've been told. It seems to behave in a very logical, constructed way, but also containing a certain amount of imagination in it as well. And I'd say we're at that midpoint, that earthing plane. We're right in the middle of this, where we can see the contrast, we can see the heaven, we can see the hell, and we can now find a middle path that leads out of this. This is just the prelude over the next 13 years. So enjoy the ride, because it is going to be fun. Wow, we're up to 26 minutes now, so I'm going to stop there. So hopefully I've put this across so it makes sense. It's just perception, how you see things, how you interpret things, what is being reflected back at me. What am I supposed to take from this or that? What's the deeper meaning in it? Question, question, question. It's a series of whys. You're asking why, that's how you become wise. That's all it takes. Just keep asking the questions. But don't try and think it through. Allow the answers to come. Listen to that intuition. That is what is going to guide you all the way through this. It's just whether we can hear it and we can feel it inside ourselves. Anyway, as always, unconditional love to you all.